In light of President Obama's recent initiative on the matter, where do you stand on the question of disclosing criminal records on employment applications? Would this help reduce recidivism, or would this endanger the community?
Well, I tell my clients that, look, if you've had a conviction in the last 15 years, it's out there in cyberspace, so you might as well be up front with a potential employer and tell them about it. Whether there's a box to check or not, they're going to find out about it. And even when there is the box, they say ban the box, okay, there's no box that you check. But in the interviews, they're going to ask you, do you have a felony conviction? What's it for? So I advise my clients to be upfront about it. Now, what I have done is I have volunteered for years to do free expungements and record sealings for my clients. We've done, I think, 4 expungement clinics at the Canton Public Library, where I've sat down with people, see if they're eligible, and if they are eligible, help them fill out their forms to get it before the Maslin Alliance and common police courts. And the problem that was happening is they were doing them on their own. They were sending them to the courts. Half of them were wrong. Half of them weren't eligible. It was a big mess. So I volunteered to do that, and I have done hundreds of expungements. I tell my clients that, you know, the fact that it's sealed off your record, still you have to disclose it in law enforcement, health care, there's any licensing that you get from the state. They ask, have you ever had anything sealed? So as a practical matter, once it's there, it's there. And I think the best approach is simply to be upfront about it and tell the employer, this is what happened, but this is who I am today. And I think that's the best approach, because they're going to find out about it anyway. And I think it's better they hear it from you right off the bat, and it gives them a better impression than find out about it later from someone else or have someone disclose it to them. So I think that's the approach that I've had my clients take. But I have a policy that if you want your record sealed, I don't charge you to do that. You just have to pay the court costs. And I'm glad to help. And I always have done that, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrero, your response.
Yes, I'm for what they call ban the box that the president has proposed. In fact, the state of Ohio has a law now that went into effect in March of this year, wherefore this is not for every employee, but for a public employee. When you put your application in, you're not supposed to have that box in there that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And the driving force behind that law was our own Stark County Criminal Justice Reform Committee that worked on it with Kurt Schuring, and they sponsored the bill. We had one objection as the president of the Prosecutors Association. We just had one problem with it, and that was that there's certain jobs that no matter what, you can't get a job if you have a felony, and that's like a law enforcement. You can't carry a gun. So they did put that into law that you can put that in there and say, you know, you don't apply if you know you had a conviction that you can't be in that job.
All right, and now your response to the answer. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, or no, I think I have it. But again, we worked. I think when we first hear that, you think, well, you know, felons don't deserve a chance. You know, they went to prison. You know, they don't. Why are we taking care of them? But what we need to do is, you know, a lot of people convicted of a felony that go to prison make one mistake in their life, and I don't think, you know, if it's someone who wants to turn their life around and wants to have a fair chance of getting employment, I have no problem with that. But again, with CJIS and to look up a person's criminal record, that's easily looked at, and you're not really supposed to. The way the law is, the employers are not supposed to use that against the applicants. But again, this is like a re-entry program we have in Stark County. We're trying to allow people who are convicted of a felony to give them a fair shot. I think that's the only way to get them to be a productive citizen here in our society. I know it's a stigma that they have to overcome, but this is a little bit that could help them. Just a story. A friend of mine was convicted in federal court of a felony. He called me up and asked me, you know, he's applying for a job, whether he should be honest and tell the person up front that he was convicted of a felony. I said, well, yeah, that's the best thing to do. And I said, you can also put me down for a reference, which the guy who did interview him said, hey, you know, your client or your friend was very honest with me, told him about his conviction. and we really are interested in him, and is he a good guy, and asked about him. So they did end up hiring him for that job. So you know, it's not that we want to throw anybody because they have a felon out and say you're done with society. I think it's our duty to help them.
Mr. Jakmides, your response.
Well, I don't think that ban the box really has any impact, frankly, at all, because, okay, it's not on the application, but then when you do the interview, they ask you. So, you know, the fact of the matter is it's going to be considered. So, again, I think that the best approach is just simply say it up front. I would tell you that the other thing I always say to someone that has this situation is, well, look, what if I gave you a drug test right now? What would happen? Okay, you know, whether before you answer me, just understand that when they find out you have a criminal record, that is going to pop up in their mind, and so, you know, you're going to have to be prepared to pass drug tests. That's just part of it. You're going to have a little bit of a stigma with you because of this offense, but don't let it define you. Look forward, not backwards. I can give you hundreds of examples of clients of mine who have been convicted, gone to prison, or gotten probation and got off probation and then succeeded in life because of their effort and just their honesty.